welcome, welcome, welcome. The Memoir Church. I'm Suze Allen, the host for today. We have Valerie Kuhn Reid reading from her memoir today, One Stop West of Hinsdale, and I'm very, very excited. We're here the first Sunday of every month. It's a great way to start your month. It's 1 hour of stories told live with wonderful, wonderful people reading from their memoirs. And it's just always such a great time. It's inspiring. We laugh a lot. We have fun and we learn a lot, and it's a way to share. So thank you so much for coming. And Valerie, come on out.
Right.
There she is. Yay!
Hi. Hi, everybody.
So what I love about your book, Valerie, and I had a chance to read it way early on, One Stop West of Hinsdale. It didn't have that wonderful title yet, and
No.
I love. It's something that very much intrigues me about writing memoir, because when we write memoir, it's the examined life, and we grow from it. And your piece, and I've talked to students and clients alike about this, that you also can grow relationships, understand relationships better. So I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So tell a little bit about how you came to write your memoir.
Well, I probably started this 8 years ago as a memoir. It's because everything I was doing for classes, for coursework, it was all writing. And I found that everything I wrote, whether it was poetry, whether it was essay, whatever it was, kept going back to the same old question. And that question is, who the hell wrecked my happy home? And I thought, that's what it's all about, everything I'm writing. So I thought, there's a memoir beginning. I had not thought about writing a memoir. And then I thought, nope, I'm going to do this. So it was a bit of a quest. I decided, here I am. At the time I was 62, I'm 70 now. But at the time I thought, here I am, this age, and I still haven't quite figured all this out. And I still am not exactly over it all. And I thought, well, the way to get over it all is to write about it and see if this point in time I can use my adult wisdom and add that to my childhood eyes and come up with the answer to this mystery. So that was how it originated. And then I started writing, and it was the right thing to do.
Well, there's a unique voice that you have. You're writing to someone. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm writing to my father, and I wrote the whole entire memoir writing not to my father, but to the audience. And then one day I was like talking to myself in the mirror, and I started to talk to my father, Dad, why did you do that? And then all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, that's what I should have been doing all along. So I rewrote the entire book. And that was a beautiful exercise because immediately it gave my book so much more focus and urgency and purpose.
Right.
So when I was rewriting it, I didn't just copy it and, speak to my dad. It shaped my writing. And it gave it made it all significant.
I love that because it gave you your clearest voice, and it gave you that direction of who you're talking to is always so important. I mean, you're a theater person too, in monologues, it's always who are we talking to and what do we want from them? So you created just innately this urgency and a way in is what I like to call it, and I love that you took it as a challenge. Did you ever feel like, oh, damn it all, I got to go back and rewrite this whole thing now? Or was it?
No, I was thrilled. I was excited. I was excited to write it over again and see what would happen. And Nope, I did not say damn at all.
Good, good. Well, you hardly swear anyway. I don't even know how we're friends in that regard. But uh, I just think, did you have a brother and a sister who are
Yeah.
alive and well, and how did they figure into your process? Were they helpful, or did you just sort of want your own perspective?
I talked with my brother about a couple of things. In fact, that appears in my memoir where I say, so I'm trying to figure this out. I'm going to call Brent. That's my brother. And so I do. And I have a couple of places where we have little conversations like, Brent, what do you remember about this? Um, and and his memory is not exactly my memory, which is
Right.
interesting. He's 4 years older, and I think
Yeah.
he would write a very different book. And my
Mm.
younger sister, our younger sister, who's 7 years younger than me, 11 years younger than him, would write an entirely different book. My brother, um, my my brother doesn't have a lot of the bad memories that I have, and my sister doesn't have a lot of the good memories I have.
Ah.
I like that I'm writing to my father because he died when I was 36. So I really never got a chance to talk to him about these. So I feel, in essence, that I am talking to him, that he
Mm.
hears me. And it's funny because when I told my sister, and I've got this in the book towards the end too, when I told my sister I was doing this, like coming clean, she goes, "Oh no, he'll be mad at us." And I thought, no, odd. He's not mad. He's telling, go, 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 go for this. This is good. Yeah.
I just love that, and I commend you for that, and I think that it can you've just let it open up the world for you for healing, for understanding, and I just think that's fantastic. And I am going to hand it over to you now and let you read
Okay.
some of this beautiful story. So you'll just introduce things as they come up and keep on moving. I am going to get myself out of here.
All right. Thank you. So I'm going to read from the beginning of my book. I'm going to read the prologue and then the most of the first chapter, but skipping to the last paragraph. And then I'll read the second chapter. And then I'll skip ahead to chapter 11. Now, the interesting thing is in part one, which I call We Sang in the Sunshine, it's 1960 to 1965. And although my book is more or less linear, this section especially loops back. I begin with my prologue today, then I go to an event in 1965, and then because I'm thinking of, okay, that reminds me of this, then I go back because I am being a sleuth. I really am trying to get to the bottom of this. Okay, so here we go. Okay, one stop west of Hinsdale. Prologue. I've been alive for 65 years, Dad. You've been dead for 30. For the past few years, I've been writing about you, but today I realize that it's to you I should write. That's the answer, isn't it? It's you who needs to hear this story. You I need to tell. You may be dead in this world, but you're alive in the next, and I would not be surprised if you are saying to yourself, finally. I started writing in the first place because something happened that blew me back to the past. Meg's husband went missing. The people of Nantucket searched and prayed, and one prayer got answered. They found him, but he had ended his life. We knew all this before I did, and I'm sure it broke your heart. I prayed for Meg and their 6 children, and then I sat there wondering at the way life can hold such secrets from us, hold them, then fling them at us years later in ways we could never guess at years before. From there, my mind took off. It carried me back to the day I met Meg, a curly-haired girl in a pack of youngsters who appeared out of nowhere calling you Dad. Then, further still to the time before Meg, when we were happy and you belonged to us and no one else. I thought about how Meg grew up to stay with a suffering spouse while others choose to leave. You, for instance, who chose to leave Mom. You, who chose to leave us. When did we start to lose you? When you met Barbara, I suppose. Barbara, Meg's mother, with her red hair and freckles and 6 kids of her own. But was that after you gave up on my mother or before? Was Mom crazy, like you claimed, and drove you to drink? Or did your drinking drive her mad? For 50 years, I've wondered, who really wrecked our home? So I've turned to the past for answers. I'm sifting through memories, mapping Mom's mood, searching your face, seeking the moment you decided we could live without you. Do you remember that I loved you with all my heart? I mean, my whole, complete heart. And you loved me with all your heart too. I know you did, because that's how you made me feel. That a day could ever come when that might end, a day when you'd rather go live with other children, was inconceivable to me. The way there are no words for certain concepts in certain cultures, my soul hadn't the capacity to imagine it. But it happened, didn't it? And I hate that I'm still not over it. I've said it. I never got over it. Not once in all these long gone years. Let myself tell you how much it hurt. I only pretended to cope because I knew how badly you wanted me to. When I started writing about you and Mom and Brent and me and Audrey, I wrote from all directions. But then my mind sharpened and tilted because one night on the internet, I read the professional profile of Barbara's youngest child. There towards the end was this sentence: my father was a storyteller. No, I yelled in my head, my father was a storyteller, not yours, mine. Oh, Dad, I ever explain how that one innocent statement slayed me? It's true, Dad. You were a storyteller. You told us magical tales, dreamed them up on the spot, but those were our stories, Dad. Mine and Brent's and Audrey's, our stories. And our father you gave them. Now that I am this old, I see you better. I see you the way black ground becomes 1,000 separate flowers in the sun. And I ask myself, Dad, what would I hope? I hope my children could someday understand me. And if it can't happen while I'm here on earth, they'll be left with one choice: go back to the past. See me, see us, and remember our story, and try with all their might to get it right. That's what I'm doing here, Dad. Now, I'm the storyteller. Part 1, we sang in the sunshine. Chapter 1, Decisions, 1965. I'll start with a day I'm sure you'll remember. I'm 11 going on 12, so it's closer to our end than our beginning. But the memory is meaningful and should remind us both who we still were to each other in 1965. It is summer in our fairy tale village of Clarendon Hills, Illinois. School is out and the best vacation of my life lays shimmering ahead. But first, I have a decision to make. In a few weeks, we will head back to Nantucket, my very own heaven on earth. Nantucket, that sea-swept island out there in the ocean where we live in swimsuits and sweatshirts, and tumble in rolling waves until our salty lips turn blue. We first set foot on its enchanted soil last August, and returning this summer is a direct answer to prayer. This time, beyond my wildest dreams, you and Mom gave Brent and me each permission to invite one friend. Today, I have to choose. Should I bring my new best friend, my cool best friend, Skylar, or my old best friend, my true best friend, Sue? You remember Susie. She lived 2 doors down and we were inseparable. Had I known the term soulmate in those days, I'd have known she was mine. But being a year older than me, Susie had left our beloved Walker School for junior high that year, leaving me to forge a fierce friendship with Skylar, who sat with me every day in our 6th grade classroom. Sue and I still played together after school and on weekends, but Sky was luring me ever further away. Do you remember Sky? She was a beautiful tomboy, a fetching combination of spunk and femininity. Her eyes shined cobalt blue under frilly black lashes, and her small, impish nose topped a mouth crazily wide and sensuous for a 6th grader. Her cheeks and her chin shaped an exact heart, and when she swirled her thick chestnut hair on top her head, she exposed an exotic gray streak. It appeared in 1st grade, she said, when her father died in a plane crash. As if being beautiful wasn't enough, Sky was also the perfect size. I was that tall girl who stood with the boys in the last row for class pictures. Sky was the cute height, the right height, the height I yearned to be. She also had an irresistible bark of a laugh, a frolicsome spirit, and a spicy little smile that said, I know, this is me. Can you even believe it? Her darlingness surprised even her. Susie and I played lost orphans in the snow and malt shop. We dressed up like Santa's elves to charm Audrey, who was still only 4. We typed up a play to send to Walt Disney. We went caroling together, toting guitars, strumming 2 chords between us, singing our hearts out. I were hipper than that. We still played kid games, but we also talked about boys, other girls, getting big breasts and periods. We sang into hairbrushes in front of the bathroom mirror wearing Mom's ruby lipstick. We used the full-length mirror in the front hall to admire our tight new figures and our tight new Levi's. Oh, we'd make a mighty pair of allies when we entered 7th grade in the fall. No longer walking to school, but riding the bus to neighboring Hinsdale, where the children who lived in mansions outnumbered us 10-1. Both friends had heard all about Nantucket. I couldn't stop talking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was caught in its spell over and over. I replayed the wonder of the previous year's vacation when we piled into our fawn mist Buick and drove 3 days across 6 states from Illinois to Massachusetts, where we rounded a bend and before us stretched a most spectacular sight, the Atlantic Ocean, vast and dazzling. We wound our way through the town of Woods Hole with its docks and seagulls, steered onto the ferry boat and set sail for the Gray Lady of the Sea, 30 miles off the coast of Cape Cod. I fell forever in love. It even entered my young mind that maybe I'd lived there in a past life, so familiar to my soul. The salt air smelled, the crashing surf sounded. When we packed up to go back to Illinois, the sense I had was not of going home, but of leaving it. So, which lucky girl would I bring to my special haven? I was seeing Susie less and less and Skylar more and more, so I couldn't help but gush to her about the upcoming trip and the possibility that she, Sky, might be part of this glorious picture. Oh, I could so easily see the 2 of us on the ferry, the cobblestone streets, the sandy beaches, a darling duo in our cutoffs and surfer shirts, stars of our own Disney movie. Even though I'd talked it up, it wasn't firm. A formal invitation had to be issued. Now, that last stage would involve parents, but I was still torn. The closer the time came for deciding, the more my conscience hounded me. Poor Sue, it pained my heart to imagine how crushed she'd be if I took Skylar instead of her. Yet on this balmy afternoon, when you, Dad, declared the time had come, the choice must be made, and parents officially asked, when I lifted the yellow phone in the hall to extend this remarkable offer, Skylar's number I dialed.
Goodness.
I don't recall the details. I know you were footing the bill for most of this dream trip, but a few expenses would fall to the other family, so I had that information to relay as well as travel dates. But other than that, the point was for me to ask Sky and for Sky to ask her mother. And Sky's mother said no.
Oh.
It was too far away. We'd be gone too long, and she wouldn't or couldn't pay the additional portion. No. I hung up the phone and felt the sweeping relief of a load magically lifted through no effort of my own. I'd asked, couldn't go. It's a miracle. My relief surprised me. I had wanted Sky to go. I honestly had, but when push came to shove, loyalty steered me. I loved both girls, but I'd loved Sue longer. At any rate, it was out of my hands. I hung up the phone, raced up the sidewalk, and burst through Susie's door. Susie and her parents are watching TV in their family room. They spring up when I come running in, hollering, Susie, can you come with me to Nantucket this summer? Can you go to Nantucket? Susie grins like I gave her a sack full of gold, and then she turns her wide eyes on her mom and dad. Yes, they say. Yes, of course you can. Susie and I throw our arms around each other and jump up and down. Her parents throw their arms around us, and all four of us jump up and down. So happy. I am happy and relieved and once again certain that everything really does work out for the best. I run home to tell you and Mom, but I stop dead when I see you waiting for me at the bottom of our driveway. You only do that late at night after a scary show like Twilight Zone, when I have to run home through the dark. But there you are, and you're not smiling. Val, you say, calmly, gently. Skylar called back. Her mother changed her mind. She can go.
Oh, no.
Now, other bad things had happened. The death of Grandma, Mom's mysterious troubles, tornadoes, all causing me sadness, worry, or fear. Yet up to that day, no catastrophe was ultimately mine to handle. But this awful mess, this was all me. The realization was brand new and sickening. Before that last word left your lips, I knew there was no easy way out.
Oh.
No matter what I did, no tidy solution existed. And now I'm skipping to the very last paragraph.
We have to know.
Yes, we do have to know.
So the last paragraph is, but what I see even more clearly is you, Dad. How in that summer of 65, you were still my hero, my good and loving father, the solid rock of my existence, as essential to me as my own beating heart. Chapter 2, it will be okay, right? Atomic bombs, the red Chinese, Ernie, the dog up the street. These were a few of the things that scared me silly as a child. To ease my fears, I looked to you, Dad, not Mom. She too was wise, but you were a bulwark of confidence. Every gripping terror of mine you took seriously. I can't go to sleep because I can't stop thinking about these bad things. So you tuck me in, then you stay by my bed, hashing through my worries until I feel safe enough to close my eyes. I give you my word of honor, you say. The red Chinese have no plans to march down Grand Avenue. They are very busy over there in China. Now, I grant you, Ernie is scary, but he's more afraid of you than you are of him. Keep showing him who's boss. And do not fret, my pet. Atomic bombs will not be launched upon Illinois. Not now, not ever. I have spoken. Dreamland with you. Say, keep the door open, okay? And you say, always. You were the source of my security. All you had to speak were 4 little words. It will be okay. And I knew it would be. But that didn't last. Let's head back to a day in October of 1964, a good 8 months before my Nantucket dilemma, when I will choose Susie over Sky. I've just turned 11. Skylar came over to play, and now it's dinner time, so we stand at the end of the driveway watching for her mom's station wagon. Sky holds a yellow leaf above her head, lets it go, then watching it twirl to the ground, she says, Sharon Miller's mother said your mother is mentally retarded.
Oh, God.
The blue sky,
Ooh.
gray, then black. The air has left my lungs, but I stuck enough back in to bellow, My mother is not retarded. My mother is smart. My mother went to college. My mother got a scholarship. She is not retarded. Shrugs a shoulder, twirls another leaf. I'm just telling you what Sharon Miller's mother said. Right then, her own mother pulls into our driveway. Sky opens the door and climbs in. Bye. Oh, God. Oh, God. What do I do now? Where do I put this outrage, this shame? Strangled by fury, I stand shaking and lost at the end of my own driveway. She meant, of course, mentally ill, not retarded. In 1960, right before I turned 7, Mom suffered some sort of collapse when her own mother died, and 3 weeks later, she gave birth to Audrey. You and Mom brought the new baby home, then Mom went back to stay in the hospital. She went there twice. I knew this. I knew Mom was a vegetarian and believed in UFOs. Cool in the 60s, yes. But even at 11, I knew these things did not make a person mentally ill or retarded. So, what did Sharon's mother know? Secret fear blooms in my stomach. Maybe it's the noise. Maybe Mrs. Miller discovered that Mom once heard a noise that no one else heard. Mom brought this problem to Dr. Dreyfus, and whether the walls in his office were too thin and Mrs. Miller happened to overhear from the next examining room, or a loose-lipped nurse repeated this story over cocktails, or even Dr. Dreyfus himself announced to his whole waiting room, "Sharon is plain nuts." Sharon's mother got it into her hateful head that my mother was mentally retarded and was out there spreading the word. I find my way up the driveway and into our house, past poor Mom peeling carrots in the kitchen, down the basement stairs where you sit watching a ball game. You stand up when you see me limping towards you, weeping and trembling. "Daddy," I cry, "Sky said Mrs. Miller said that Mom is mentally retarded. Why would she say that, Dad? Why would she say that?" You wrap me in your arms where I sob and sob as you say over and over, "It will be okay. It will all be okay." Well, it wasn't, was it? Now I'm skipping to chapter 11, which is actually a little back in time. It's called A Christmas Dirge. Between her hospitalization in September of 1960 and her shock treatments in September of 1963, Mom had unquestionably changed. You, however, created the illusion that all was well with your usual good-natured gusto. I suspect it required more and more gin to maintain that gusto, and it began to take its toll. One drink too many and your jolly face threatened to twist into that awful pinched lip expression I had earlier recognized as contempt. There is no denying it. Disturbing moments were steadily creeping into our idyllic days. Take my 10-year-old Christmas, for example, only 3 months after Mom's shock treatments. It is 1 week before Christmas. The trunk of our car is open, and it shouldn't be because I see something I ought. I run straight to Brent's bedroom. "Brent, guess what? There's a pile of new toys inside our trunk." "Yeah," he says. "Well, maybe those are for our cousins." "Well, I only saw a few, but some of them were toys I asked Santa for." "Just forget you saw them, okay?" Brent turns back to his stamp collection. I'm not buying the bit about the cousins, and I go straight to Mom, who is in the kitchen with her hands as usual in the sink. "Mom, I saw a bunch of new toys in the trunk. I saw a little Miss Echo. That's what I asked Santa for. Are you giving that to me? Because if you are, I'm pretty sure he's bringing me one already." Mom wipes her hands on her apron and sighs. She turns from the sink to face me. "Val, you're old enough now to know that Santa is not a real person. He is a legend, a fairy tale for children. He is, well, he's like a spirit, the spirit of Christmas, of giving." I am speechless. Does she know what she is saying? Santa, a spirit? That idea. Santa is one of my favorite people. I have sat on his lap, looked into his eyes, for crying out loud. Not real? Well, then where do all those come from? It's your parents. We buy them. Now, please don't spoil it for Audrey, okay? She looks at me wistfully a moment longer, then turns back to the sink. So that's that. Santa is dead and grown-ups are liars. There has to be something I can do about this. Brainwash myself. That's what. Brent told me something called brainwashing can change people's minds and they won't even remember what they thought before their brain got washed. You must repeat whatever it is you want them to think, and presto, they will believe it. I tried it out on myself that night. I fall asleep chanting, Santa is real. Santa is real. Even if by some long shot he isn't, I will wake up not remembering. Only it doesn't work. I remember all right. On Christmas Eve, I crawl into bed with a hole in my heart, but I awake at dawn with a positive attitude and scurry to the tree like usual. After all, what has changed? Only who gives us the gift. You can't stop Christmas. But this one feels different from all the others, and it has nothing to do with Santa. That night, while sugar plums danced in our heads, you and Mom fought. I knew this immediately because both of you still seethed in the morning and neither of you spoke to the other. What on earth had you fought about? I had heard the two of you head to the basement as I lay awake in bed. I knew that was where you wrapped presents on top of the ping pong table. Ordinarily, you'd have waited until I was asleep so as not to blow Santa's cover. It stung a little to know it no longer mattered, but you probably figured since the jig was up and little Audrey was sound asleep, you could get a jump on things and for once head into Christmas Day with a decent night's sleep. I imagine you began cheerfully enough. I imagine Mom smiled and said, let's go downstairs and get the toys ready. And I imagine you would have poured a drink, probably not your first, and your argument started early because it was evident the next morning that little wrapping took place. I picture you both standing there surveying the toys and clothes spread out over the ping pong table. You probably both sighed at the task ahead, so maybe Mom reasonably remarked on the need to stay awake. Maybe she said, Ed, you shouldn't have another drink. Have a cup of coffee instead. This could take a while. And maybe you ignored her suggestion and took another swig from your glass and said, I'll wrap the little Miss Echo. You wrap the Flintstones Play Village. Maybe Mom frowned. I thought you were going to get a little Miss Echo for Audrey, too. No, Vern, she's only 3. That doesn't make sense. But how will she feel when Val has one and she doesn't? She's only 3. She has tiny tears. You regard the dolls in silence, and then Mom can't help herself. I would have gotten her one. You knock back half your drink and reach for the wrapping paper. Mom says, oh dear, did you notice little Miss Echo has a stain on her skirt? Where? Oh, you can hardly see that. Can't you sponge that off? You shouldn't have bought one with a stain on the skirt. It was the last one. Should have gone to another store. I would never buy a doll with a stained skirt. You drain your drink, pinch your lips and mutter, yes, ma'am. What did you say? You are both still staring at the merchandise on the table. You don't answer her question. Instead, you say, why did you get Brent a yellow mohair sweater? He won't wear it. He has sensitive skin. Wool irritates him. You know that. It looks like a girl's sweater. Well, it's the latest fashion, and it's too bad you think it looks feminine because I bought you one in red. You turn and stump up the stairs to the kitchen where you fill up your glass with gin. Mom is right behind you. Ed, you're drunk. You shouldn't drink so much. You squint and smile with mock deference. Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry, ma'am. You're acting like a nasty little boy, she says, to which you growl, lay off, you louse. Mom does not yell, call names, or throw things. In fact, she never will. You need to behave better than this, she informs you. You need to control your temper. Nag, nag, nag. Temper, temper. Drop dead. By now, we'd be fast asleep. The two of you had to find a way to sleep as well. You would have had no trouble in those years, given the gin in your system. Mom, on the other hand, would have poured another cup of coffee, lit a Pall Mall, and sat in the kitchen corner on her ironing board chair, staring into her gloom. In the faint dawn of Christmas morning, we children stand before the Christmas tree, but the whole house feels frigid, as though the furnace snapped off in the night and the icy air seeped through our walls. Your gloomy silence on this happiest of mornings makes me scared and sort of sick. There are presents under the tree, but even they look cold and angry. They are not spread out beneath the glittering boughs, but stacked up like building blocks in 3 columns. It's wrapped. Picture you and Mom slamming down each toy on top of the other while the rest of the world sang Christmas carols. The morning became the afternoon. We played with our toys. The two of you warmed up, but something menacing had moved in. This might have been the first time I genuinely understood that it lived with us now. Like a rattlesnake under the bed, I tried not to disturb it. And that's the end.
Oh my goodness.
So beautiful, Valerie.
Oh, thank you.
Goodness.
That's glorious.
Wow.
That was
Such
just the beginning.